All right, ready to dive into some seriously complex stuff.
Let's do it.
Today, we're tackling quantum computing,
Okay.
but not the usual hype you hear everywhere you turn.
Right.
We want to cut through all that noise and see what's really going on.
Yeah.
And luckily,
Mm-hmm.
we've got Scott Aronson's incredible lecture notes to guide us.
Oh, he's brilliant.
He doesn't just scratch the surface, he goes deep
Deep.
into the nitty-gritty of how quantum computers could actually work.
And what they can do.
Exactly.
They can do.
Yeah, because let's be honest.
Yeah.
I hear quantum and I immediately think, like, parallel universes,
Right.
cats in boxes.
Sure.
It's all very mind-bending.
It is.
But how do we get from there
Yeah.
to actually building something?
Right.
A machine that can solve problems.
Well, it all starts with the building blocks.
Okay.
And the crazy thing is, they're not even bits anymore.
Right.
We're talking about qubits.
Qubits.
Quantum bits.
Okay.
And instead of being a 0 or a 1,
Yeah.
they can be both at the same time.
Hold on.
It's wild.
So it's not just that we don't know if it's a 0 or a 1 yet.
Right.
It's both at the same time.
The universe hasn't decided yet.
Whoa.
It's like you get both possibilities for the price of one.
That's wild. My laptop definitely does not do that.
No, this is a whole other ballgame.
Okay, so how do we even begin to work with something like that?
Well, that's where quantum gates come in.
Quantum gates.
Yeah. Both of them
Like logic gates.
Yeah, like logic gates in your computer, but instead of your A and Ds and your ORs, we've got things like the Hadamard gate.
All right, the Hadamard gate.
Yeah.
Hit me with it. What's that do?
So remember how we said a qubit can be both 0 and 1 at the same time?
Yeah, it's blowing my mind, but yeah.
The Hadamard gate is like giving that qubit a perfectly balanced flick.
Okay.
So when we finally force it to choose, it's got a 50-50 chance of being a 0 or a 1.
So it's like flipping a coin.
Exactly.
But on a quantum level.
Precisely.
Okay, so we've got these quantum gates, these tools.
Mm-hmm.
Are some of them more important than others?
Oh, absolutely.
Like in a toolbox?
Yeah, you've got your hammer, your screwdriver.
Yes. Yeah, your essentials.
Your essentials, exactly.
Okay.
And in quantum computing, one of those essential tools is the Toffoli gate.
The Toffoli gate, okay.
This is where it gets really interesting. Because the Toffoli gate allows for what we call controlled operations.
Controlled operations.
So imagine you have 3 qubits.
Okay.
The Toffoli gate will actually flip the third qubit.
Flip it, okay.
But only if the first 2 qubits are both a 1.
Interesting. So it's like one qubit state is influencing another?
Exactly. It's like a chain reaction.
Okay.
And that's what makes complex calculations possible.
So the Toffoli gate, that's like the Swiss Army knife of quantum gates.
You got it.
Essential.
Absolutely.
But then I came across something in Aronson's notes that kind of threw me for a loop.
Okay.
This idea that not all quantum gates are truly universal.
Ah.
Like for quantum computation.
Oh, right.
What's going on there?
We've stumbled upon the Gauss-Mill theorem.
The Gauss-Mill theorem. Okay.
Yeah, and this is where things get really wild.
All right.
It turns out that if you limit yourself to certain types of gates,
Well,
even though they seem inherently quantum,
right.
you can actually simulate the entire computation on a classical computer.
Wait, so you're telling me some quantum calculations are actually
Secretly classical.
classically disguised?
Exactly.
That's mind-blowing.
It really makes you question what quantum even means, doesn't it?
So some quantum calculations are secretly just classical in disguise.
It's true.
That's kind of mind-blowing.
Yeah.
But even if we've got like a truly quantum setup going on with our qubits and our gates and everything, how do we actually get an answer out of this thing?
That's where measurement comes in.
Measurement.
And it's where things get even weirder.
Okay, here we go.
So remember how we said a qubit is both 0 and 1 at the same time?
Yeah, until we measure it.
Exactly.
Oh, wait.
Measurement is what forces it to choose.
Okay.
Poof.
Poof, gone.
Superposition's gone.
Okay.
You're left with a definite 0 or 1.
So it's like our coin finally landing on heads or tails.
Exactly.
But what happens to all the other possibilities?
Oh.
The paths not taken, so to speak.
Yeah, that's the big question, isn't it?
Right. Or are they just gone?
Well, that's a question that'll keep physicists and philosophers up at night.
Right.
The many worlds interpretation would say that each possibility creates a whole new universe.
Right.
But that's a deep dive for another time.
Another time, yeah.
For actually building quantum computers.
Yeah.
What matters is understanding that measurement is a destructive process.
Mm-hmm.
Once you measure a qubit,
Yeah.
those other possibilities, they're gone.
They're gone.
And that impacts the entire system.
Okay, so how do we make sure those gone but not forgotten possibilities don't mess things up?
Right. Right.
It seems like there's a lot of potential for quantum
Chaos.
chaos, yeah.
Exactly. And that's why we have something called uncomputation,
Uncomputation.
which Aronson really emphasizes is just as important as the computation itself.
Interesting.
Think of it like tidying up your workspace.
Oh,
You
yeah.
don't want scraps of paper from previous projects cluttering up your desk.
Oh, tell me about it. My desk is a disaster.
Right, you don't want it confusing your current work.
Yeah.
So uncomputation is kind of like that.
Okay.
It's about carefully reversing the operations that created those extraneous qubits.
Okay, so it's more complicated than just throwing away old coffee mugs.
Just a tad.
Okay.
But it's crucial for making sure those extraneous qubits don't interfere with that final measurement.
Right, so it's like quantum garbage collection.
You got it.
I love it.
It's essential for getting accurate results.
Okay, so uncomputation, we've got to clean up after ourselves in the quantum world.
Exactly.
I like it, but it brings up another question I've always had about quantum computing.
Okay, shoot.
Everyone's always talking about how much faster they are.
Right.
But is it true they can solve any problem exponentially faster than a classical computer?
Well, that's a common misconception.
Okay.
It's tempting to think, oh, it's quantum, it's a magic speed boost for everything.
Right.
But it's a bit more nuanced than that.
Okay, so no instant teleportation, no time travel.
Not quite yet.
Darn.
But how do we even measure how much faster a quantum computer is for a given problem?
Right. Yeah, good point.
That's where computational complexity classes come in.
Okay, computational complexity classes, what are those?
So these are like categories for problems based on how hard they are to solve.
Right.
So think of BQP.
BQP.
Which stands for Bounded Error Quantum Polynomial Time.
Okay, got it.
Think of that as like the realm of problems that quantum computers can tackle efficiently.
So if a problem falls under BQP,
yes,
we know our quantum computer can handle it.
In a reasonable amount of time, yes.
Okay, what about all the other problems?
Well, that's where things get even more interesting.
Okay.
There's a class of problems called NP, short for non-deterministic polynomial time.
Okay.
And these are notoriously difficult, even for quantum computers.
Really?
These are problems where verifying a solution is easy, but
Right.
finding that solution in the first place, that's a whole other beast.
So you're telling me even with all this quantum wizardry,
Yeah.
we still might not be able to solve certain problems?
It could take billions of years.
Billions of years. That's humbling.
It really puts things in perspective.
It does.
Because quantum computing isn't about replacing classical computing.
Right.
It's about understanding what types of problems benefit from this new approach.
So it's about finding the right tool for the job.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Speaking of tools, I remember reading about Grover's algorithm in Aronson's notes.
Ah, yes.
And it sounded like a perfect example of how a quantum computer can offer a speedup, but not necessarily a magical solution.
Right.
Could you explain that a bit more?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Imagine you have a phone book
Okay, a phone book.
with 1,000,000 entries.
1,000,000 entries, got it.
And you need to find a specific phone number.
Right.
A classical computer would have to search through each entry one by one
Yeah.
until it found the right one.
Sounds tedious.
Very.
Like finding a needle in a haystack.
Exactly.
Okay.
But Grover's algorithm allows a quantum computer to essentially search the phone book in a superposed way,
Superposed, okay.
considering all entries simultaneously.
Wow, okay.
And this allows it to find the right number much faster,
Okay.
but it's still a search.
Right.
It's not instantaneous.
So it's a quantum speed boost,
Yes,
but not a free pass.
exactly.
That makes sense. But even with those limitations, it seems like there's still a lot of potential
Oh, absolutely.
for quantum computers to revolutionize certain fields.
Without a doubt.
It's wild to think we started talking about qubits and gates.
Yeah.
And now we're here talking about phone books
Right.
and like the limits of what we can even compute.
It really makes you think.
It does. It really
Like
does.
we've gone through the looking glass.
We kind of have.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder, like, what are the biggest problems we could throw at a quantum computer?
Oh, that's a great question.
Where even a tiny speed up would be a big deal.
Well, one area that's really exciting is material science.
Material science.
Simulating how molecules behave at the quantum level.
Right, right.
That's incredibly complex.
Yeah.
But if we could do it, I mean, it could revolutionize everything.
Everything. Wow.
From the way we discover drugs to renewable energy.
So instead of like spending years in a lab
right.
mixing chemicals and seeing what happens,
Yeah.
we could design and test new materials on a computer.
On a quantum computer, exactly.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Imagine designing the perfect solar cell.
Wow.
Or a catalyst for carbon capture that's like unbelievably efficient.
That'd be huge.
Right. These are the kinds of problems where quantum computers could really change the game.
It feels like we're on the edge of, like, a whole new era of scientific discovery.
Absolutely. It's an exciting time.
It is. But I have to ask,
Yeah.
with all this talk about the power of quantum computing,
Mhm.
are there any downsides? Are there ethical things we should be thinking about?
Oh, for sure. That's a crucial question. Because, like any powerful technology, quantum computing has the potential for both good and bad.
Right, right.
We have to be mindful of that.
Like, for example, I've heard people talking about quantum computers breaking encryption,
Right. That's a big one.
which could be, like, a huge deal for cybersecurity.
Absolutely, because a lot of the encryption we use today relies on factoring large numbers,
Right.
which is something quantum computers could theoretically do much faster.
So is it like a ticking time bomb? Should we be worried?
Well, the good news is that researchers are already working on new encryption methods
Okay.
that are resistant to quantum attacks.
Okay, so they're ahead of it.
Trying to be, it's like an arms race,
Right, right.
but it's one we're actively fighting.
That's good to hear, so it's not all doom and gloom.
Not at all. It's like with
Okay.
every potential problem,
Yeah.
there's a whole community of researchers trying to find solutions.
That's what I like to hear. It's been amazing exploring the world of quantum computing with you.
It's been my pleasure.
I feel like we've gone from the very basics.
Yeah, the weird basics.
Right, like how is a qubit doing that?
Right.
All the way to, like, could this change the world?
And I think the biggest takeaway is
Yeah.
we're still in the really early days,
Right.
but the possibilities are huge.
They're mind-blowing.
They really are.
And who knows, maybe someone listening right now
Yeah,
will make the next big breakthrough.
I like that thought.
Right. Pretty amazing stuff.
Definitely.
All right. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning.
And keep diving deep.
Absolutely.